Hey everyone, welcome back to Pretending with Dice. As always, I'm your host and game master, AJ. Before we get to today's episode, I just want to take a moment to re-point all of you towards the social media pages of the great cast members that I get to work with when making this show. One thing that we don't normally do, as long-time listeners will know, is have our cast reintroduce themselves at the top of every episode. This is pretty much just down to the way that we record. Some sections we get multiple episodes from, sometimes it's just the one episode, and sometimes an episode will have material from multiple recording sessions in it. So we just don't tend to reintroduce ourselves every time. I do make a point of putting our cast Twitter handles in the episode description, but as I know, not everyone reads those every time. So I thought it was past time that I gave them all out again at the top of the show, so you can go ahead and follow our amazing cast. You can find Eden at Monkey Magic Eden, Dragon at Dragon_PRPG, Amy at Meg the Pict, Mark at Marcus Malice 87, and finally Sharona, the voice of our ship's computer, at Bad Banfa. I'm super honoured to work with the cast that we've assembled for Frontier, most of whom have been on multiple series here on Pretending with Dice before. We have a ton of fun every time that we record, and I really hope you're all having as much fun listening as we're having playing the game. So without any further ado, I think it's time to get into today's episode then. Enjoy.
Previously on Frontier.
Crew of the Dratiran warp vessel, this is Captain Harrison Collins of the Federation starship Tenzing. Are you receiving me?
We submit ourselves to judgment. We should not have left the sphere. Lord, please forgive us.
No, stand up. There's no need for any of that. As you command, Lord. Anyone can knock up a cockpit, but, this here is pretty much a one-to-one recreation of Cochrane's engine, if you ask me. You know how many first warp flight vessels are in the Federation database, Commander? 327. You know how many had an inverter in that particular configuration?
Just the one ship.
That's right, just the one. Our congregation is not always looked upon favourably. Some of our congregation's teachings are not compatible with the mainstream views.
You're, fringe.
Yes, sir. The final page. At the bottom, however, just a couple of lines of text in English, in standard Federation lettering. Finally, a series of short lines, drawing unmistakably the Starfleet insignia. So, I guess it's safe to say there's a moment of tense silence as you all read through the text in English on this incredibly old Dratiran document, clearly declaring the fire of the gods, covetously hoarded by self-proclaimed superior cultures, now shared freely, as it always should have been. The Dratirans themselves, Rai and Varai, are just kind of looking at you expectantly.
Do you mind if we just take a look at it and use some... I swear our equipment won't be harmful to your relic, but do you mind if we just have a look at it?
They quietly confer for a moment in the manner that you've gotten used to them doing before turning back to you. So long as the document is not damaged, that should be fine.
Nope, I assure you we will do our utmost not to damage it at all. And Murphy's just going to start taking a tricorder out and do a light scan.
Okay. What are you actually scanning for specifically here, then?
I want to know how old it is, and if it was maybe like weapons damage that is maybe like why this fragment's here, or
I mean,
or maybe like
why the quotes there? Is that what you mean, and all that, or how do you mean?
I'm one to or maybe if they're like what they're made from, like what made the mark.
Okay.
I can get an analysis of that.
I mean, without even rolling, I will say it looks like it's written on there in very similar type of ink and everything to the rest of the document. It just looks like at a certain point it just switches to English. But you can definitely do a scan to see how I guess how would this be like, to see how old it is. I'm guessing this would be a science
or even
scan,
just the
actually.
composition of it, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, I guess can I get a reason science check from you? This would be difficulty 2. So you're aiming
2d20.
for 2d20, and you're aiming for under 12 on both of them.
Ooh, 6 and 10.
Okay, 1 success. Okay, so well, it's not a full success, but it is a partial success. Okay, well, I will say you can tell the paper is at least a couple of centuries old. That is all you can get from it, with the 1 success.
Okay.
Jonny is in absolute shock here, and shoots a glance over towards the Dratirans. Says, what's the origin of this document? Where did you get this?
It was discovered among the ruins of the ancient Temple of Theldan during an archaeological excavation around 50 years ago.
How old are we talking, this Theldan place? What's the is there any historical significance to your people?
We cannot be completely sure when it was buried, but it was lost during a volcanic event many centuries ago. Certain writings speak of many such events on our world occurring perhaps 600 years ago or so. We believe Theldan was buried during this time.
I see. Would you be able to point, I suppose, if we were to visit your planet, like, would you be able to show us Theldan from orbit, and perhaps we could take some scans and see if there are any hints of Starfleet technology, perhaps? And then he looks to his teammates as he's saying this.
Our congregation has built our settlement on the site of ancient Theldan, so yes, it would not be a problem to show you its location.
I see. What do you think, officers?
It's a potential option, but we'd have to clear it with the captain, because it might violate the prime-directive. Any civilization that can start to explore space has to have space telescopes or some kind of scanning equipment.
Yeah, I suppose there's the first contact rules that we need to follow here.
We'd be first wanting to deal with the leadership of the overall planet before individuals.
But this document, this begs a lot of questions. Jonny eyes the Dratirans a little suspiciously.
Trust nobody, the Jonny Connaught way.
Is it possible to scan the document for any traces of handling it? Not necessarily fingerprints or anything like that, but is there a way that we can scan it to see if there's any kind of, I suppose fingerprinting in a way, but any kind of matches to humanoid species, to see if anyone else other than the Dratirans have handled it?
Yeah, you can do that. That's totally an option.
Okay. Alright, let's give that a go then. I'm guessing we could use a tricorder for this.
Yes, you could.
Okay. Then I will whip out a tricorder.
Your trusty tricorder.
Indeed. Alright, I'll say to the Dratirans, I just want to do one more additional scan, if that's okay.
Of course, go ahead.
Thank you. So, out comes the tricorder.
Okay, again, this will be reason science, which for you is a lot easier. That is 17 you're aiming for, and again, difficulty 2 on this one.
Okay, here we go. 11 and a 9.
11 and a 9 as your 2 successes. Yep, okay.
Booyah.
I will have to ask, before I give you an answer, did any of you handle this with your own hands as you were looking through it?
No, Johnny's been kind of peering over. I'm assuming Murphy seems to be the one that's closest to it at this point. So he's been
I've
peering
just
over her
scanned
shoulder.
it. I've not really touched it.
Okay.
I've,
When you were first
run
going
my
through it,
tab
how did because I will let you retcon if you say the Dratiran spread it out for you. I will let that be a retcon. But if one of you's like, yeah, I flipped through it, then this isn't a leading question. I just need to know.
I'm assuming they put it down on the table for her.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I thought anyway.
Yeah, I know. I'm very conscious of that. That seemed to be like a quite lead. Oh, by the way, did you skew the results of the thing you've already rolled for? That wasn't what I meant. You know what I mean? I just
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
No, I did not touch it.
Okay. All right. So it takes you a few minutes then, just going over every page, I take it, just sort of looking for everything.
Yeah.
You only get Dratiran DNA.
Right.
And very little of that as well. It seemed like this was quite a rarely fully handled document. You know, this wasn't like pulled out at all times or whatever.
No, so it's kind of like Declaration of Independence. Very few people have ever actually handled it.
Yeah, just the people who signed it and Nicolas Cage. That's it.
Okay, fair enough.
But no Federation affiliated species DNA or not.
Okay, that's the scan finished. Nothing additional to add. Thank you very much.
So okay, right. Anything else you want to do with this document? Like I said, I'm leaving this open to anything you want to try. You can do any calls you want to make. Anybody you want to pull in. I've set the scene and leaving it up to you at this point. This is Johnny's not very proficient at engineering related stuff in the slightest.
No. So I think it's fair to say that he can't really make heads or tails of anything other than the fact that there's a Starfleet insignia on this thing. That if there would be anything significant there, that he can't see it. But with that in mind, do either of you recognise anything within the calculations and text that are here alongside the Starfleet insignia? This is quite a document. I'm guessing that did this, and he turns to the Dratirans, did this influence in any way the ship that you've built?
Well, yes, we followed the instructions contained within when constructing our vessel. See here.
He traces a finger along a line of Dratiran script, which you can't read.
A chariot to travel above the skies, to commune directly with the Theldan.
And he sort of kind of looks and nods as if to, like without thinking, as if to say, meaning you guys, before kind of catching himself. But yeah, he's sort of pointing out sections and not kind of really clocking that, yeah, you guys can't read along with him. And it's sort of pointing in sort of references. There are kind of bits that are diagrams, which you can sort of see are like, well, that looks like a warp intermixed chamber. This looks like a general structural diagram of what they should be building. It's clearly, while you're not sure of like the sort of exact wording wrapping it all up, I mean, because they do consider it a religious document, so there must be some sort of the trappings of the document must sort of, it's not like here's an instruction manual document. It's clearly got the right religious language entwined within it to give it the prominence that it has got with these people, but it is still quite clearly some kind of instructions to build a warp vessel. I'd say a good way of putting it would be that it's instructions to build a warp vessel disguised as instructions to talk to God.
I'm just imagining this phrasing now. and yea, thou shalt eject the warp core. when the warning sirens have tomed doom, or I don't know, something.
And yea, the prophet turned to his right-hand man and said, "Behold, Klingons on the starboard bow." And
Klingons on the starboard bow. Klingons on the starboard bow.
Murphy's like looking over going, we're going to need an engineer to look at this as well. Ray, can you get someone up from engineering? This just looks, some of it makes sense and some of it is just odd.
Well, you're kind of in an office just off of the shuttle bay at the moment, and the head of engineering is in the shuttle bay at the moment with some of his team.
Yeah, go grab him.
Sure, I'll go and get Carter in here. And then I turn and walk out to fetch the good engineer.
Okay.
While you're doing that, just before you go, Johnny's
Too late,
gonna
the doors have closed.
Well, as you're going out then.
As I'm going out the door.
Johnny goes, I just got one more question. And he points at the Starfleet insignia and says, Is that the sign of the Theldan?
Not as such, no. This is not a symbol we've seen anywhere else, but we believe it to be a secret mark of the prophet who left us the Revelation, although we do not know his name.
I see.
Each of you bear this mark upon you. He points to your communicator badges. And the sacred script, although we do not know its meaning, your own vessel bears. This is how we came to believe you were who we sought. He kind of points to, it's, you've got stuff with things written in English on all the screens around here and everything, and he's sort of just pointing to things. See here, the sacred lettering, you use it too. And it's just a replicator that says replicator on the top. Please input in that. They clearly can't read English, but then it's more the style of the text itself.
Murphy's just going to look at them and be like, there's nothing sacred about these lettering. These are just our language. She's going to point to the replicator. It's a replicator. It helps. It creates food, sustenance for... It's science. Not magic.
It sounds pretty magical.
It does.
It's pretty magic.
What's the phrase? Any sufficiently advanced technology looks like magic to the uneducated.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, the point I'm trying to make is basically that they see the Latin alphabet and the Starfleet insignia as sacred symbols, really, from their inclusion in this document, despite not knowing what they actually mean.
Johnny's got kind of a quizzical look and just says, well, thank you for being so forthright about this. Are you... you said that you're not a popular group on your planet. Are you under threat?
Yes. Our congregation is small. The teachings of our elders are not accepted in wider society. The other congregations do not believe we should reach out to the Theldan as we do. They see it as blasphemy.
Well, you'll be safe with us. Starfleet looks after people like you. You're not the first.
They nod, but you still kind of sense a little bit of sort of trepidation about them, about the whole thing.
Murphy's going to take a scan of the document so that they have it in their records.
Like a scan, as in like a scanning, like...
Yeah.
As in like putting it in an HP inkjet scanner. That kind of scan.
as in like scanning it so that they can have a visual... Yeah.
She makes a copy of it. Yeah.
So you can put it in the holodeck.
Yeah. And have a detailed look at it so that we can return it to the
there's too many types of scans in this game. Yes, that's simple enough to do. You can do it with the tricorder, but you could probably even do it just with the general kind of equipment in the room and that. Yeah, simple enough to do. No rolls needed to make a copy of the document. If your examinations are complete, might we return the scroll to its case?
Of course. Thank you for allowing us to look at it.
They gather up all the sort of pages and parts of the scroll, very carefully returning them to the cylinder in which they were stored. But yeah, you now have a copy of it saved on the ship's computer, which you can study all that you like.
I'm going to bring it back on to the screen, so when Ray comes back with Carter, they can have a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
They can ponder a bit more.
Speaking of, the doors open at this point, and Ray and Carter enter. Carter carrying what you would recognise as a standard Starfleet dilithium storage module, a kind of small but secure container into which you can see he has placed the decrystallised chunk of dilithium which was found inside the Dratiran ship's engine. He sets the module down on the desk. Alright then, what can I help you with, Commander?
Come and look at this. I wonder if you could point us out to anything that's unusual. It's going to look unusual given what some of it says, but you're an engineer. What do these mean?
It comes up to the screen. What exactly are you pointing at? There's a few diagrams and such.
I'm going to point to one of the formulas or the equations that doesn't make sense to her.
Okay.
Do you recognize that?
Not in this state, no. Computer, could you translate this to English for me?
Affirmative.
A few seconds later, the all of the text shifts into English from the Dratiran script.
Oh.
That's better. Yes. Well, yes, these are warp equations, yes. Nothing too out of the ordinary. The annotation here is a bit flowery for my taste, but yes, looks like they did the math properly at least.
So, these are sound? The calculations are spot on?
Oh, yes. Well, as close as they need to be for a vessel of this size. Wouldn't trust the tolerances for something as big as the Tenzing, but saw them through fine. Got surprisingly far with such a small amount of dilithium, too.
Carter, these are a couple of centuries old. And were written down on a piece of paper left by someone from the Federation. And these guys have built a ship and made it here.
Well, they did all right if you ask me. The math works, no matter how old it is. We merely followed the instructions of the scroll. It has been buried for 500, maybe 600 years. Interesting. Pre-Federation, then. Well, pre-human spaceflight, if you get right down to it.
Murphy's just gonna look at him. What?
Jonny's aghast and just looking around a little bit, kind of confused, and dumbfounded.
Murphy's just gonna look at him and go, "Oh God, this is a bigger head."
Yes, quite a pickle.
But this document to have a Starfleet insignia on it, this must be some kind of time travel occurrence.
Let's not jump to conclusions just yet.
Jonny stares at the insignia and studies it as closely as he can. Is it like absolutely a perfect Starfleet insignia? Like there's no denying what it is?
Yeah, and it's pretty much a 1-to-1. There's not really any mistaking it, if that makes sense.
Ray, do you have any more scans you'd like to do? I think we should inform the captain as soon as possible.
Nothing left that I want to check on this one, Commander. I think the next step is to tell the captain. We've scanned this document and got everything we can out of it, so the next step is potentially to visit their homeworld and see if there's anything else there that might shed light on why this insignia is almost an exact match for our own.
Connor, I want you to stay with the Dratirans. Make them comfortable, get them something to eat, check back with the doctor. Ray and I'll head up to the captain, inform of the situation.
Aye, sir.
Just one thing, Ensign. Don't take them to one of your holodeck programs. We don't want to scare them too much.
Jonny he doesn't grimace, but he kind of winces a little bit. Says, aye, sir.
If you run out of things to do, take them back to sickbay.
I was thinking that was exactly where I would take them if they require it. And he turns to the Dratirans. How are they looking?
One of them is sort of making almost it's not like grabbing it behind your back, but is sort of quite clearly like sort of looking like they want to take the dilithium back. So, may we bring the speaking stone with us? It should not be parted from the Revelation.
Jonny looks to the rest of the group, not knowing much about whether that's a safe thing to do.
Murphy's just gonna look at the engineer.
Oh, of course, yes, it's all sealed up. Take it if you like. What did you call it? The speaking stone? He scrolls through the document on the screen. Ah, yes, here it is. The speaking stone. To commune with the Theldan, place at the heart of the device. Well, that's one way of saying place the dilithium crystal in the dilithium crystal chamber, I guess.
So it's not going to cause a pickle, Commander?
Oh no, not in its current state. Fully decrystallized. Might hurt if you dropped it on your foot, but that's about it.
Okay.
And Jonny picks it up off the table and passes it over to the Dratirans. And says, are you both feeling okay? Are you both hungry? Could I get you a drink? Let me take you down to 10 forward. We relax in this part of our ship. I think you might enjoy the view.
Sorry, I really love Johnny's go-to is either the holodeck or 10 forward. There's no in between. Really.
Well, where else am I going to take him where it's kind of like this is a casual place? You're not going to have stress here. I suppose I could take him to quarters if anybody wants to override me, but that's Johnny's move, is to take him to 10 forward.
Take the lead on this. You know, if you want to take him to 10 forward, and if nobody else is going to tell you anything differently, I'm not going to bar you from doing anything. This is your choice to make.
Yep, that's where, yeah.
Fair enough.
That's off we go, and yeah, Jonny kind of nods to the rest of the group and leads the Dratirans out.
Okay, all right. Let's stay with the officers at the moment then, and we'll check in with Jonny in a bit, I think. So Jonny leaves. Commander Carter is still studying the diagram a little bit, but you get the feeling he's just kind of a little bit engrossed in it now. Like you've handed him an interesting new document describing how to put together a very similar Phoenix prototype, and that's right in his, this is the kind of thing he'd look up for fun kind of thing, so he's almost not really paying attention to the rest of the room at this point. In fact, actually, I think I had him last time tell you that he'd built his own Phoenix prototype as a hobby.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a nerd when it comes to this kind of stuff. So yeah, what would you like to be doing now then? You've got Ray or Murphy.
I don't think we have any more scans to do. So I imagine we'll probably just head up towards the captain and report in.
Sure.
We'll just head up that way then.
Okay.
Ray, you coming? Unless you've got something to do.
Okay. So, you get on a turbo lift.
Bridge.
It's a pretty quick trip, and by happenstance, as you disembark from the turbo lift, the captain is just stepping out of his ready room. Ah, good. The two of you are here. I've just appraised Admiral Flanders of the situation. I want all senior staff in the conference room right away. He nods to Commander Theldan, who was occupying the captain's chair on the bridge. Commander, if you would join us. She stands and follows you as you all head to the conference room. So, joined by Arila and eventually Carter, once he's finally prized away from all the stuff down in the shuttle bay, you are all sat around the main conference room table.
I'd imagine we've got a diagram, the actual display up of the document.
Sure, yeah, if you wanted to.
Display. Yep, and explaining to them what we've found so far, and that the document might be as old as the Federation, or older.
Older. I mean, it would put it into...
Older, yeah.
That would put you into... Well, we're in 2378, so...
1800s?
1800s. Yeah.
It's seriously something to consider looking into, sir. The fact that these people are a minority among their kind as well has some significance to it. The opportunity could be lost.
Indeed, yeah. Plus, added to that, the rarity of our planet's first war flight being carried out against the wishes of the world's rulers. This document here is the real crux of it, though. I'd say a prime-directive violation is what's happening here, but if it is, as you say, over 500 years old, it raises some big questions. A Starfleet insignia and instructions on how to build a warp vessel on a document older than the Federation itself? I don't like it.
What makes it even more strange, sir, is the fact that the ship that these aliens, for lack of a better word, have used, I mean, it's not completely one-to-one of the original Phoenix, flown by Zephyr Cochrane and built by him as well, but it's near as damn it. We're talking, based on the findings of the team that I had working down there, we're talking 80 to 90% match in terms of schematics, building materials, and even down to the layout of the antimatter chamber for the dilithium. I mean, when you think about it, how can a document that predates the Federation by it's merely the age that we're getting from the scans, how can that contain intimate knowledge and instructions on building a replica of the first warp ship?
We need to be cautious here, I think. Admiral Flanders agrees with me that this whole situation is already out of the ordinary, but there's definitely more going on here than we currently understand. It may come to it that we don't go ahead with any further progression of the first contact procedures.
What would happen with Ronnie and Vary then?
Well, that's a good question.
Frankly, if I may, both of them did appear to be genuinely concerned for not only their own lives, but, well, they thought they were sacrificing them anyway on this trip, but that their whole community could and would be wiped out.
Just for taking on this venture?
For having that paperwork to begin with. For going against the rest of the planet's orthodoxy. We could be looking at mass extermination of a minority.
And it's not as if that hasn't happened on your own planet, Captain. In many centuries past. Whether the prime-directive allows us to do this or not, I feel we should do something, even if it's at a distance.
Unfortunately, Commander, that's the one thing the prime-directive is clear on in this case. We can't interfere with the internal affairs of a pre-warp society, no matter how barbaric those affairs might be. It's out of our hands.
Unfortunately, sir, what doesn't appear to be out of our hands is the fact that they know of us now. If they go back, whether they willingly tell people or try and keep it to themselves, they will find out about us eventually, and it might make things worse for them.
It's a messy situation. I'll confer again with the Admiral. This new information about the age of the document may give us some wiggle room. We may be able to come up with some alternatives.
There was one other thing, Captain. One of the Dratirans, when questioned by another member of the crew, revealed that this document was actually found when they were excavating the settlement where they currently live. Whether they found it by chance or they were looking for it, it's possible that they do sit upon the answer to this mystery, which potentially throws another spanner in the works, so to speak.
That would provide us another avenue of investigation, Captain. Perhaps if we could get a closer look at where it was found, it might give us some answers.
Could we send an away team, sir?
Undercover away team? It's not unheard of in Federation history.
Given that the rest of the society appears to be pre-warp, I believe it would be possible for us to go down undetected. The difficulty is going to be trying to move quietly through a population that is already very aware of external risk factors to their survival. We would need a lot of cooperation from our two guests.
The Doctor is correct, Captain. I believe that Dratiran society's natural level of paranoia will work against us in this regard. The Captain looks pensive. It's an option, though. We'd have to beam down from a very high orbit. The last thing we need is someone looking through a telescope and seeing the Tenzing flying over.
If I may put forward a suggestion, Captain.
Please.
Well, the Dratirans said they found this document in the ancient ruins of their settlement when they were digging and doing a miniature excavation. If an away team goes down, potentially we could place scanning sensors and beam a layout of the foundations of their settlement up to the ship, send it over a subspace wavelength, and then we can analyze it while staying clear of their orbit so they can't detect us. Might help us to solve one mystery while confronting another one.
We'll still have to send someone down to place the sensors, though. I'll keep it in mind as an option. We'll take what long-range scans we can as we travel closer to the planets and evaluate the feasibility of sending in a covert team.
Nice, sir.
Either way, though, I need to update the Admiral before we do anything. Where are our two guests right now?
Ensign Conard is looking after them, sir.
So 10 forward, I suspect.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Doctor.
Well, I haven't forgotten my introductory tour of the ship.
I like the idea that Jonny's getting a reputation as...
That guy who shows the holodeck and 10 forward, and that's your lot.
Well, I'm just hoping that this time he wasn't discussing security details.
Showing them his sick moves.
Well,
Or flexing.
So, I was going to say, this captain sort of raises a bit of an eyebrow, as does Commander Theldan. He says, well, that's a fairly busy part of the ship. Let's hope he's taking good care of them. And then we smash cut to Jonny. What's going on, Jonny?
okay. So Jonny, on the way out, has he's been quite cordial to these two Temerians. Dratirans, sorry. What's their demeanour like? Are they kind of meek? Are they?
They're pretty meek. They're quite. I mean, this is all very new to them. As we sort of alluded to earlier, a lot of the sort of things they're seeing are kind of sort of magic-like technology. You're not really showing them holodecks or anything like that, as you said, but at the same time, like they're quite clearly, they know they're in a place far beyond what they're used to. You weren't present in the briefing, the original briefing, so you wouldn't have the biggest of sort of pictures, I guess, of what their sort of general technology level is like, but it's safe to say it's far below how things are on the Tenzing. So they're kind of a little bit sort of sticking close to each other, and they're quite wide-eyed and sort of meek. They're not like striding around like, haha, we've made it aboard, or anything like that. They're sticking fairly close to you and close to each other, and just sort of.
They're not Luddites though. Like they've got to come from a society that's got like integrated circuitry and that kind of level of technology, at least, surely.
They're essentially 21st century tech level.
Okay, so Johnny's been he leads them down towards 10 forward, and on the way he's asking questions. So you say that you're quite a small sect within your what is your society? Is there one unified thing that happens on your planet? Is there a religion?
Yes, the worship of the Loltron is universal. There are disagreements and many different congregations within the faith, but all worship. Our congregation is not large, only a couple of thousand.
Is it fair to say that we might be at 10 forward or approaching at this point?
Sure, why not?
Okay, so Jonny leads them in. I was thinking I could perhaps get you some food and drink. And, and he leads them in and kind of does the gesture of like, welcome to the room, and gestures towards his window.
Yeah, there's a fair few people in here this evening. It's not packed, but it's there's a few people here. This is the first time the ship has dropped out of warp for a few days, so people are kind of like, some of them having the same idea of you, like, let's go look out the window, and get a drink while we're at it, kind of thing. Maybe not as informed as you as to what's going on, but you were able to get a table, I would say.
So can I get you guys anything?
They whisper briefly to each other for a second. This kind of close conferencing thing with each other that you've sort of noticed them doing a lot.
Water would be fine, thank you.
Oh, no problem at all. And Jonny gets up and goes to the bar.
I was going to say, as you kind of looking at them as you go, and that they kind of are very much sort of shrinking into a corner kind of thing. Not like they're still a little bit wide-eyed is what I mean, more than anything else, and kind of sticking to themselves kind of thing.
I can see it.
Yeah.
So Jonny goes to the bar and can I get 3 waters? Why not?
Pushing the boat out tonight then, Ensign.
Oh well, I'm looking after 2 unusual guests here, and he kind of gestures over his shoulder towards the Dratirans.
The barman, Pringle, who you come to know quite well, the Betazoid. He looks over your shoulder at them. He sort of frowns a second. They seem pretty a little bit jumpy there, Ensign.
Between you and me, they're kind of new to all of this. They've just finished their first flight into space.
Wow. So you're saying this is a first contact thing?
Yeah, I've been assigned with looking after them. And he kind of looks quite proud of himself for a second.
Big responsibility there, Ensign. Do you think this calls for ice and a slice of lemon with this water?
Well, I don't know about the lemon for our guests, but why not for me?
Okay. Yeah. He's got the replica. I guess he replicated the water. Yeah, he's replicated 3, and he puts a bit of ice in each and a little slice of lemon on the side of yours. Well, better treat him well. Sort of looks around. No other senior staff taking care of them.
No, just me. And Jonny picks up the glasses and kind of jolly, like merrily goes off back towards the desk, absolutely not picking up any factor of like, should he be doing this? Is this the right move?
Fair enough. Yeah.
And yeah, he wanders back over to the table, plops down the glasses, and says, these are quite cold. I don't know if that's to your taste.
That is preferred. Thank you. I am sorry, we do not know your name.
Oh, I'm Ensign Connor. You can call me Jonny.
Very well, Ensign Connor Jonny. Thank you.
Oh, I'll forget about it. Well, let me show you. I mean, this is one of my favourite spots on the ship. And he kind of gestures out towards the window. I mean, as you can see, the ship we have here is quite something. We've come a long way since the kind of ship that you've built.
It is most impressive, yes. Would it be possible, Ensign Connor Jonny, to not be quite so close to the viewport? It is quite intimidating.
Oh, my apologies. I didn't even think. Of course. Let's move over back towards the bar. And he kind of helps gather up the drinks for them and moves them over to a table that's a little bit more suitable for their taste, or at least what he thinks will be.
Yeah, they sort of shuffle along after you, quite quickly getting away from the window, I would say. I don't know, how perceptive is Jonny? Like, how are you for sort of picking up subtext and stuff? I mean, we know he's not great at picking up quite a lot of subtext.
Yeah, he's pretty bad. I mean, these guys don't look like they're having a terrible time, do they? I mean, they've been maintaining pretty much the same demeanour throughout.
Yeah, it's been pretty much the same demeanour throughout. But I'd say there may be. I mean, you know, it's a completely new species to you, so you don't know all of the subtleties of like facial expressions and that. But you would say that maybe they seem a little bit relieved to not be next to a giant but fairly thin piece of material separating them from the vacuum of space. They seem a little bit relieved, I would say.
Okay.
Bearing in mind, this is a species that has maybe, like, as a species, has not had that many space flights in general, and they've just come off of their first warp flight, and in a vessel that they made themselves. And thinking back, you can quite clearly picture the not particularly big viewports on their ship that they came from, but also fairly thick viewports.
I think as much as Jonny is he loves Starfleet and all that.
Yeah.
I don't know that his first contact protocol knowledge is that great.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like Johnny's idea of kicking back and having like, hey, we're relaxing, right? Like, I want to show you guys a good time. This is where I go. This is how we do it.
Jonny's not a diplomat.
Yeah, exactly. He probably shouldn't have been given this role.
No. Yeah, probably not. But here we are.
I gotta go to the bridge.
But he's friendly. And he's easygoing. And he's easy to talk to.
Yeah, and he was already in the room. So it's
There's
fine.
all these positives.
I'm asking pertinent questions.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, you are getting information. You just, yeah. But yes, you're able to move to a table closer to the bar. And the barman catches your eye and gives you a sort of like a everything going okay kind of look.
Johnny kind of gives a half-hearted smile and shrugs a little bit and sits down with the Dratirans.
So yeah, they sit down and you see them both put their backs to the viewports at this point, so they're just looking in you know, they're maybe trying to convince themselves that there isn't a giant window behind them. But they do seem to be a little bit more at ease here.
Johnny kind of awkwardly sits there in silence while they sip their water, kind of smiling at them, like, are we having a good time? Like, he doesn't really know what to say to them.
You have just generally been getting this vibe that these guys aren't really that big on asking questions of you guys, really. They came here with the preconception that they would be talking to the Theldan, their gods, really.
Okay.
And it's kind of thrown off their worldview a little bit to be greeted by the Tenzing and be told pretty much straight away, like, oh no, we're not the Theldan, despite, basically being raised to being like, we are, with what they thought was the sacred letters and things, and here you are with them, and you're like, oh no, we're not gods, don't worry about it. I don't know. They're not really in shock, but they're not giving off a particularly inquisitive air, I will say.
Okay. So, for about the time it took you to describe that, Johnny's been sat silently, smiling kind of awkwardly, and shooting a glance occasionally to the barman, as if to say, like, oh, I'm slowly dying here. And the smile is becoming a bit weaker.
Yeah.
Eventually just goes, so, about that Theldan.
They sort of, you see them sort of unconsciously make like a sort of sign across their chest of sort of, you don't know what it means or anything.
Jonny kind of snaps together a little bit and says, sorry, if I mention that name, are you inclined or I don't want to say forced, but is it part of your rituals to do that if I say that word?
Oh, I see. Yes, the Theldan are to be praised.
See. So, how long has the Theldan been praised on your planet? How long is this? I mean, I don't know if this is blasphemy potentially, but was there a time before the Theldan? What's the story and origin of this?
You catch. I was gonna say do an insight check, but I think you would catch this anyway. As you say this, there is a quick frown on both their faces before they kind of, almost like the internal thought of like, no, that is blasphemy, but then realizing, oh no, but he's not from, he wouldn't know, and says,
the Theldan have always been. They created all of us.
See, and that speaking stone, as you called it, did that allow you to communicate with the Theldan?
No, the stone was found with the revelation itself and was mentioned within it. It was to allow us to speak to the Theldan, yet it brought us to you. It is the only part of our vessel which was gifted to us. We know of no other.
So there was nothing else with this speaking stone, it was simply named that, but you've never communicated with the Theldan?
No. The Theldan are on high, as you might say, and it is for the High Priest to interpret their wishes for us.
This is very interesting. I mean, not for nothing, I suppose you're already heavily involved with this, but the document that you brought with you, it features a particular symbol that to our culture means quite a lot. And it's quite unbelievable that you've uncovered this, because its age seems inexplicable. What's the history of the place that you found this? Is there something more to the ruins? Why were you uncovering things there?
The area was being cleared for more farmland, and the ruins of old Theldan were discovered during this. While excavating the ruins, that was when the revelation and the speaking stone were first discovered.
But there's no talk, no history to this place that would be significant to this discovery.
Not as far as we know, no. Theldan was just a small town which was lost many centuries ago. Now it is the home of our congregation.
Hey. Well, I'm sorry that I've perhaps badgered you a little bit with so many questions. Is there anything at all that I can tell you about our culture and the way that we live? As you can see, we're quite an advanced society compared to your own, I suppose.
What is a badger?
A badger?
You badgered. You say you badgered us. What is badger?
Oh, My apologies. I didn't even think it's a creature, a small aggressive creature from my home planet. Well, not my home planet, but the planet that my race comes from originally. They're known for being quite aggressive. And I suppose we use the turn of phrase to sort of mean that when people are questioning quite a lot, that they might be badgering people.
There are not any aboard your vessel, are there, Ensign Con or Jonny? They sound most fearsome.
No, certainly not. No, we don't keep that kind of thing on the ship.
See them, a little bit of a look of relief across their face.
Okay, so yeah, Johnny's picked that up at least, and I'm very, very sorry. No, my apologies. I don't mean to confuse at all. And he kind of takes an awkward sip of his drink and looks at the two of them, kind of wishing that this would just end to some extent.
No, let's keep going.
So, well, can I get you anything to eat, or are you happy with your drinks? Have they drank much?
They've been kind of slowly sort of sipping their way down the glasses as they go, so they're about halfway through a glass of water. They seem fairly contented with that. We do not know what food you would have of ours.
Well, that's a good question. I don't want to poison these guys. I was careful with the lemon. I don't...
Well, I mean, you could try a few things and just have the doctor on standby.
There's got to be something. Perhaps if I could take him down to medbay and we could get a scan done and find out what their biological profile is, so that we know like what the safe proteins and that kind of stuff are to give them, and then we can kind of try like, here's something that might taste good to you. Like,
I would say from the Starfleet Science Expedition, we could say that they've probably got a full scan somewhere on record.
Okay.
Maybe not of individual foods, but rather than having to drag them all the way down to medbay again.
Oh, okay. So, well, I guess Jonny will have a go at the replicator then.
Yeah.
And we'll say, well, let me have a try with our computer here. You'd be surprised at what it might be able to pull out. Let me see what we can get. And he wanders over to it and says, computer, could you pull up any files and information that we have about Dratiran physiology and try and produce some kind of dish or something that might be adequate for their nutritional needs?
Working.
A few seconds later, the screen sort of scrolls and it says, so several sort of options appear on the screen, basically, as the computer sort of presents to you things that it thinks will be compatible at least. The bartender, Pringle, has wandered back over as well. You're sort of not watching over your shoulder, but it's sort of a little bit kind of paying attention in a kind of, what are you up to there? It's sort of, look, not interrupting or anything, you're perfectly within your rights to use a replicator, but
his presence is known though to Jonny. Like, it's felt behind him.
Yeah.
Jonny acknowledges him and goes, "Oh, hey Pringle, I'm just trying to find something that I could serve to our guests here. That we don't really know that much about them, but the computer's just trying to figure out if we could perhaps find something that will be appropriate for them."
Well, the computer would know better than I am. I can't say I've ever served. What did you say they were called?
Dratirans.
Dratirans. Okay, it's a new one on me. You have to let me know what you come up with. Don't want to be caught out again.
Oh, let's see what we get. Jonny gets a wild idea.
Hit me with the wild idea.
Can we make this food look like any other food, even though it's composed of something that's appropriate for these aliens?
Yes, 100%.
Cool. Let's make them some hot dogs.
Sure. Okay.
Because this is something that Jonny likes. This is like kind of a good old Earth specialty.
Yeah. How are you asking for it?
Computer, could you shape this food and make it appear to look like classic American hot dogs? You know, the style that I like.
Affirmative.
The replicator cycles goes through its procedure, and a plate of hot dogs appears in front of you.
Jonny picks up the plate of hot dogs and gives it a deep sniff. Mm-hmm. And does it smell appetizing at all?
Not really to you.
Okay.
It's a bit. There's not a lot of flavour. It's a little bit sharp.
Okay. Computer, are these safe for me to eat?
Warning. Protein configuration unsuitable for human consumption.
Okay. Could you make a plate of hot dogs from my favorites menu?
Affirmative.
And it cycles again, and there's another plate of hot dogs appears.
Okay. And
Indistinguishable from the ones that you're already holding.
I'm not trying to set anything up there.
Neither am I.
Johnny intentionally keeps his plate in his left hand.
Okay.
And the plate of the other one's in the right hand. And he kind of shrugs to Pringle and goes, well, here goes nothing. And takes him over to the table and puts the plate down in front of the Dratirans and sits down with his own plate. Says, well, I've made some food for you guys. I know this might look a little bit unusual to you. I've made it appear to be like one of my favourite foods. Just for, I don't know, cultural exchange, let's call it. So, perhaps have a sniff, let me know what you think. Have a little taste.
They sort of, they lean forward kind of quite, again, this is the most inquisitive you've seen them, really. Sort of gives them a sort of, a little poke, and then sort of sees how are you picking up your own ones, sort of, they kind of look up at you as like to say, like, what do we do here? Because you brought no cutlery or anything. Johnny's picked one up and gives him a big smile and takes a big old bite. Okay, they kind of exchange a glance. One sort of nudges the other one. The one that got nudged picks one up and sort of a little bit sort of tentatively sort of gives it a sniff and then just sort of takes a small bite on the end there and seems okay. Turns to the other, says,
It tastes like Velara crackers, sort of.
And the other one picks up another hot dog, and they both kind of, again, they're sort of tentative about it. They're not kind of like, oh, cool, and digging in sort of thing, but they are, they do eat, and they're sort of a little bit, they don't seem displeased with them, I'd say.
Okay. Well, Johnny's going to tuck in and enjoy his hot dogs alongside them and kind of smile throughout, again, kind of like taking the opportunity that this fills the awkward silence quite nicely. He doesn't have to talk because they're supposed to be eating.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's if you're willing to end
I was about to say, probably by this point the conference room meeting is wrapped up, and that is the captain has returned to his ready room with words of conferring with the admiral. So Irila and Ray and Murphy, where are you going? What are you doing?
I think the biggest thing is probably going to be trying to sound out what our guests think of maybe scanning their home settlement. But I'm not entirely sure whether we should be doing that yet or how to do that diplomatically.
Yeah. I mean, the ship is basically holding it's kind of, you're sort of almost like, compared to like the speed that the ship can go, you're essentially just drifting towards their home planet lazily at the moment. You could get there in like 5 minutes, or less than 5 minutes if you wanted to.
Yeah, it kind of feels like we're in a holding pattern at the moment.
Pretty much, yeah.
Actually, I think Commander Irila is going to try and take the rest of, like, the next couple of hours off, which she does best by not being around anyone, because empath.
Yeah,
and
fair enough.
It gets really overpowering. So she goes to one of the holodeck and has a Zen garden to sit and meditate in by herself.
Is this a program that you've made yourself, or is this like have you got like a sort of stock, what you've just said, like, computer, make me a Zen garden, or is this like one of your personal programs?
I'll probably leave it up to the computer to decide.
Okay.
That way it could be any variation. So it's the same but not the same.
Sure. Okay. What planet would you like it to be on?
Somewhere warm.
Somewhere warm. Okay.
Yeah.
Vulcans are classically...
I was just about to say that.
And it seems like a good place to meditate.
Yeah.
A Zen garden on Vulcan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that worked.
Sure. Yeah. So the holodeck doors open, and stepping in from the corridor, you find yourself atop a rocky spire. Would you say Arila's visited Vulcan before? I mean, I guess there's a reason that she's picked Vulcan.
I would say so. She's been in Starfleet for quite a few years at this point. So yeah, I'm sure she's been to Vulcan at some point.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you recognise around you the unmistakable red sort of sandstone landscape of Vulcan, kind of stretching all to all the horizons. In the centre of the spire on which you stand, set into the surface of the rock, but just a couple of centimetres down, is a perfectly circular, immaculately tended area of sand, which has been raked into interlocking ripples and spirals, with a single flat-topped rock at its centre. There is just the faintest of breezes and not a single other person to be seen. It's quite peaceful.
First thing, I will go and collect some small stones, and then sit them in a circle around me. Then sit in the circle and essentially just let most of the thoughts and things just kind of power down, and let the empath barriers down. It takes energy to keep the empath barriers up.
Yeah.
But I don't have to here.
No.
So everything just kind of relaxes and eases out. And she'll stay like that until she feels completely calm and relaxed again.
I mean, you could even have, if you'd like, you could even have this be in one of the smaller sized holodecks on the same deck of the ship as the sick bay, which you know aren't used quite as much.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. So yeah, you're able to get a couple of hours in there easily. I feel like you were called in, like when this all started, you weren't on shift anyway, were you? You were called away from a mixer.
Yeah, I just got randomly dragged in.
Yeah, and it was it's just a lot of busy things happen quite at once, and you sort of were dragged along. So yeah, you were able to meditate safely in the knowledge that sickbay itself is still being manned and everything, and yeah, you are free to take your time here. Murphy, what about you? What are you doing after the conference finishes?
I'd imagine that Murphy would probably do the same, because I think they were on shift when all of this started.
Yes.
So I'd imagine that she'd be off shift as well. In that case, she would likely go get something to eat, and then she'd probably return to her quarters, because she's been around people all day as well. So she's probably likely to sit down with a book and a glass of wine.
Sure. This is just an evening in. It's fine.
Just an evening in, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're able to do that, no trouble at all.
I mean, she'd probably check on Connor and see how the
well, I was leaving that up to you whether you wanted to do that or not. That was what I was sort of...
Yeah, actually, she'll call on Connor.
Okay.
Or she'll try and find him. Connor, where are you?
Connor reacts to his comm badge going off. Connor here. I'm in 10 forward with our guest.
Alright, I'll be there in 2 minutes.
Hi, sir.
Make my way there.
Okay. Yeah, quick turbo lift ride you down there. You are in the room. You see, as you enter, you see Jonny sat with the Dratirans, who seem to be eating hot dogs, which you weren't quite expecting. Sat at a table, which, I mean, you know by now isn't Johnny's usual table as well, so this is all a little bit out of the ordinary. Fairly close to the bar, you can see that Pringle is keeping a fairly close eye on them. Still behind the bar, kind of doing his thing, but yeah, he's a little, he seems to be slightly hovering, although you're not sure that Jonny has picked this up.
I'm gonna nod to him and then wander over to Johnny's table. Evening, folks. How are we?
Oh, good evening, Commander Murphy. Well, we're doing just fine. How are the hot dogs, guys?
They are most satisfactory, thank you. Sort of go on, sort of nibbling on.
If you're tired at all, have Connor guide you to some quarters. which we have prepared for you. You don't have to force yourself to be sociable if you don't wish to. Connor, good job for keeping an eye on them. The captain's been informed of everything. We're just waiting on Starfleet to clarify what our next move is. I'm taking the evening off.
Oh. Well, would you like to join us?
No, I've a book that's waiting for me, and it's been a bit of a busy day, but thank you nonetheless. Good night, folks. And then she's going to head back to her quarters.
One of the Dratirans, as you sort of say it's been a long day, sort of says, we would appreciate the quarters you have prepared for us, Ensign Connor, Jonny. It has been a long day for us too.
Oh well, certainly. Let me take you to your quarters. And Jonny kind of grabs the. Well, no, he's not going to grab the remaining plates because that's the job of Pringle, I suppose. He kind of nods towards Pringle to let them know that they're getting up and leaving.
Pringle sort of nods back. So, I will see you later, Ensign. He nods to the Dratiran. So it was a pleasure to meet you. He sort of nod, slightly incline their heads back to him. Murphy, as you walk out, Pringle sort of catches your eye and sort of raises eyebrows a little bit, and like a sort of, I don't know how to describe it, like a kind of, this is unusual sort of expression, I guess is the best way I could put it.
Murphy's just gonna cast him a look back and be like, look, this whole ship is unusual some days.
Given the look of, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. Murphy, you're able to make your way back to your quarters. Easy. No problem. The book and wine are calling.
Yes, they are.
Let's say, Jonny, you are able to there is a set of guest quarters prepared for them on Deck 5, VIP guest accommodations. It's a full suite for them.
Well, Johnny's going to take them up then, and remain in pretty awkward silence for the entire time, unless they've got something to say. No, you've kind of gauged from this point they're quite guarded with their words and such as they go. It's a quick trip anyway. You're basically getting in a turbolift, going up a couple of floors, and then you're there. Yeah, it's got that kind of air about it of, like, Johnny's quite full at this point and quite tired and kind of wants the day to be over. It's been put in mind because he's seen his commanding officer, like, clocking off for the day. So it's kind of got that vibe of, like, a drive home at the end of a very long day when you've gone out somewhere and it's just quiet. And he takes them back, and you get them to the VIP guest quarters and show them in. It's a quite nice suite. It's much nicer than your room, actually. The perks of being a VIP and not an ensign sharing a room with Bonge. But they seem again, they're sort of the luxury of a huge room on a spaceship, I think, hasn't quite sunk into them, or at least it's sort of like such a unheard of thing for them, really. It was quite cramped in their ship. And yes, they thank you, and you are left in the corridor. What are you doing? Are you walking away? Are you leaving them in there? What's the Jonny would have shown them the amenities and sort of like how to like do things in the room as best as possible. Has left them and is now he's pooped out. It's time to go home. Let's go back to quarters, and assuming it's the end of the shift.
Sure, you can leave the room unguarded, I guess.
My commanding officer's clocked off for the day.
That's true. Yeah. No orders given there.
I mean, who does it go to then? Should I? I guess I should clock in with somebody.
I mean, the second in command would be Lieutenant Sota, which is Murphy's second.
Okay, so Jonny hits his comm badge and calls Sota and says, Ensign Connaught to Lieutenant Sota?
Go ahead, Connaught.
I've just dropped off the Dratarans to their room. Is there anything else that you need me to do before I end my shift today?
Just stay there for a moment, would you? I'll organise some crewmen to relieve you and stand guard. We ought not leave them unattended.
Aye, sir. And Jonny kind of takes a stance to the side of the door, like security officer stance.
Yeah. You don't have to wait long. You only stood there for maybe 5 minutes before you see a pair of security officers coming along the corridor towards you. You recognise them as your subordinates, Crewman Teth, an Andorian female, and Crewman Draper, a human male, who greet you as they approach. Sir, here to stand watch.
Steps out of position and allows them to take theirs.
Yeah.
Look after these guys. They're quite timid.
Yes, sir. They take up sort of places either side of the door. Just sort of standard kind of, we're on watch. This is guess going to be our job for the next few hours. Sort of standing there kind of job.
Jonny goes back to his bunk then.
Okay.
From there, just heads home.
Alrighty. So Ray, what are you doing after the conference?
Okay, so Ray has headed back down to his quarters.
Mm-hmm.
And winding down the end of the day, he puts his pad on a table as he walks in, and then he goes into what is essentially the bedroom area, sits down on the end of the bed, and he takes in a deep breath. Computer, what is the current star date?
The current stardate is 55076.87.
I walk over to a kind of small-ish casket that's on a small sort of raised side table opposite the bed.
Mm-hmm.
Open it up. I reach in and I pick up a climber's axe, which is starting to show its age. It's rusty. Handles it for a minute, and then puts a free hand to the back of his neck, and just says to himself, "Every year without fail." And he puts it back down and says, "I really should speak to a doctor." And closes the casket.
Alright, that's going to do it for this episode. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time on Thursday, March 10th with the continuation of this story, and we hope you'll all join us for that. In the meantime, you can find all the links to everywhere that we are online at pretendingwithdice.com. So for now, that's our show. We hope you all enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.